Sari said before, we're from ruangrupa. We both are from Jakarta right now. Calling, it's a pleasure that we can join you live at least, although not in person. Because of the time difference is not that great, so it's good that we're here. You can see like we are from ruangrupa based on the theme, let's say P2P and Web3, for example, against Web3. Maybe we have been similarly doing something that's in that interest, but we just don't use the same language, let's say. What you see here is like in 2010, ruangrupa was founded in 2000. So in 2010, this is our 10-year anniversary, where we held different series in Indonesia, an event called Hanya Memberita Harap Kembali, only giving better with expecting nothing in return. So it's just like many of us, including Sari and myself, we toured the Indonesia, doing our artworks to be given out to people, but in real life. So technology, of course, play a part in it. Like Sari, for example, I remember because I assisted Sari at that moment, printed photographs that made in situ, but like the technology made it possible that it can be done that way in situ, like you know, on site, very quick photograph that was made at that moment was given to anyone who came, let's say. But this is kind of like the thing or a module that we've done numerously in the past. And then not only this, but one of the thing that we can share based on the theme of your provocations, let's say. Next, sir. I'll jump to what we're doing after, at that moment, almost 20 years. Right now, it's 22 years, of course, our practice. But there is a moment or opportunity for us to practice it, not only preaching it or talking about it, but practice it in a larger scale, for a lack of better word. Although we are kind of skeptical towards going bigger, but that's an opportunity that for us, we use it to test it in different localities. So not only in Indonesia, but other localities. We call it interlocal. And then because of this collective work or community-based work, we're trying to understand not only the way we practice it, or we have been practicing it, but from others in different localities, how they practice it. So in that sense, we're trying to understand, to listen more, because the things that has become our goals are not necessarily shared with others when they practice it in different localities with different challenges, different contexts, etc. But there are always similarities that we found out, that it's kind of like exciting for us. This is what has been steep learning curve. That's what we call it. Next, sir. This opportunity is maybe some of you've heard, called Documenta 15, a big contemporary art event, if you don't want to call it an exhibition, that we manage to work with since the beginning of 2019, at least up until September this year. So it's like more or less 3 years. And then we saw it as an opportunity, instead of working exclusively and newly coming up with a new concept for something as big as Documenta, we decided to counter-invite something like Documenta big, to be part of our continuous practice. That's why the notion of a river, or an analogy of a river, kind of like useful for us to understand it. It in a way that like it has been a journey for us before Documenta was part of it, and then it got complicated with Documenta being part of it, and then we take that journey together with Documenta, culminated in the 100 days, the traditional understanding of a Documenta as an event. But then after that 100 days, it will continue. So it's not a single stream per se, let's say, but then it becomes, although like there's a mainstream of that river journey, but then it will branch out. It has been branching out. It will continue to branch out. Next, Sarah, I'll just like continue with the working group notions, because like we extend invitations to others, to artists, to other collaborators, to Lumbung Interlocal, etc., etc. I'm not going to delve deep into it, but I think like what Sari can continue afterwards is what we call the working group. So because of that conversations between us, so not only us as in ruangrupa, but also with other collaborators, we tend out to do working groups. And then the following pictures will show you, for those who didn't manage to visit Documenta this year, maybe it's helpful that like this structure of keep on talking, keep on extending the invitations, etc., etc., make it possible for certain type of practices, whether it's art or not. It's being debated up until today, let's say, but this is what it results in, at least for the 100 days, and then the continuation throughout something like lumbung.space that might be closer to what you all are trying to talk about with this symposium. Then Sari will continue, but yeah, activations, space activations continues, are like skateboarding is even in the middle of space like Documenta Halle that used to be housing only exhibits, objects, you know, heavily objects, not only of course, but heavily object-based work. Fredericianum, one of the oldest museum in Europe, as you can see it right now, then together with not only ruangrupa designing the space, but other artists, even sometimes to a certain extent independent from us, decided and managed to do a common library, as this picture was depicting. Next, sir, or others like using their works. This is by Richard Bell. Aboriginal Embassy has been touring the world for a long time, but then coming to Kassel in Frederikplatz, the public space, the most important public space, debatable traditionally for Documenta, also for previous editions of Documenta, doing the 10, talking about things, inviting artists related to Documenta, 15 at least, to talk about it, and like keep on improvising, let's say, improvising with the context, the content, as well as the people he invited. Next are or parties, you know. This is a cinema caravan moved around in Kassel for during the 100 days. coming back and forth from different sites, and always having sauna, screening room, a DJ booth. So it's a party, let's say. Next, Sarah, and then I'll stop to get to with this image. This is by Dan Perjovsky, one of the daily horizontal newspapers, he called it, and then reacting to how Documenta 15 has been perceived, accepted, consumed, let's say. And then this image also, I would say, it's open for interpretation, including to your interpretation when we call talking about peer-to-peer, or how we call it. Maybe I would propose or provoke how we call it in Lumbung, the working system of Documenta 15 and ruangrupa, and further beyond Documenta 15 as well, is interlocal. I'll give the mic to Sari. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Farid, for your sharing. And again, hello all, I'm Sari. To carry over what my friend Farid has shared, yes, I would want to continue by sharing about lumbung.space. I hope you can hear me okay, because I think the connection is a bit glitchy before. Yeah, about lumbung.space, and actually it's connected to our wish to continue working as an interlocal network out of the necessity to have a digital common space for the Lumbung network to continue the journey of our Lumbung building process after the event or after Documenta has ended. And after we have returned back to our different realities in our many different locale. And just as a background, in the Lumbung building process that coincides with Documenta 15, together with the Lumbung artists, many of us were split into different working groups. There are those who try to think around the Lumbung economy, for example, building the network of Lumbung publisher, and many more other working groups. And that this working group is now somehow still continue to collaborate and develop. And there is also a working group who in the process are specifically thinking about the building of a digital platform, where I also am part of it. And in less than 2 years, we have developed a research around this question on what a digital platform for the Lumbung practice might actually look like. So it's really an exploration to that question. And the wish is to facilitate a space to hang out digitally while sharing the learning, or we call it as harvest of the Lumbung community in lumbung.space and through lumbung.space. Since each of our practice is actually a different school in itself, where the different experience, knowledge, and learnings are generated. So in short, by sharing the outcome of our learning or our harvest in a common space or common library of lumbung.space, it could then be useful as a tool for the network to create affinities. And therefore, we could learn about each other's works or the different contexts, and also the thinking better and better. And it's, of course, like an entrance or a step for more collaboration or connection to happen. What is lumbung.space, at least at the moment being, bearing in mind that this is an ongoing journey or ongoing quest. So for now, to share with you that lumbung.space is basically 3 things for now. First, it is a website, and the name is lumbung.space. If you check the link, you will be landed on the website of lumbung.space. The website shows all kinds of harvests from the Lumbung Interlocal Network. These are videos, illustration, publication, and updates from the network. And secondly, not just a website, it's also an ecosystem of tools. Behind the website are all kinds of tools, as you can see, that can be used to share our harvest or where members can meet one another. And these different tools or application exist on the spectrum between internal visibility and public visibility, which means that while most of the function would be visible and available only to those who are part of the Lumbung community, the whole system as such has ways of publishing specific material in the same time, which had initially only been shared internally, for example, also to the public landing page or to the website. The idea here is that as an environment, the system affords a trusted internal space in which fragile ideas or newly established relation between the large and diverse group of participants can be developed. Few of the participants have a prior history of collaboration together, and many do not know one another personally. However, the same system should afford the possibility to make work also public from this environment as well. As soon, for example, as ideas are formulated, work is solidified, and positions are clarified. So currently the following tools are available. And this is how it looks in the login page, where you will be accessing a page where all the tools are there and can be used according to the needs. One of the tools is the tv.lumbung.space, and it is video archive and live streaming platform. We also share many learning sessions there, where, for example, the different working group invited someone to learn from, and therefore the other working groups who are not joining the session can learn or catch up something from the conversation, even to hang out with the archive on their own after the events ended. So it's really about to support the process of collective work, where sometimes in reality you need to split to different working groups, but then how each can follow up the process of another group as well through the harvest or documentation. Next is social.lumbung.space. It is a Twitter-like space, which is based on Mastodon software that many of us maybe already know, I think. It is for sharing short notes and updates. It's also interesting that in our process, we can add another functionality that fit to us. It's a web to print functionality for social.lumbung.space. So if we refer to a specific hashtag being used, or in other words, to easily create a hashtag-based Zine publication that could be shared or be spread as part of our harvest. Another one is cloud.lumbung.space, which is an online office environment. This is to share and organize files and calendars. And it's for us to have a single place where material could be stored and found. It is to help simplify our work process together with so many different initiatives in, as Farid said, different interlocal. Since prior to this, the way of working had grown and scattered across as many platforms, which made it very difficult for the network to keep track of what was going on. And this is span.lumbung.space, where longer text can be written and published. We have also books.lumbung.space, an online library based on the tool of Calibre, where publication can be shared and read. This is panduan.lumbung.space, or in English, it can really be translated as tutorial.lumbung.space, which is a shared manual with documentation about the tools or other documentation of the general our Lumbung building process. We also created participation guidelines in the video format, so each of us can make and share the manuals on how to use the tools on lumbung.space, also according to our preferred language. And this is, of course, to be able to share about the project further to our local ecosystem. Nongkrong.lumbung.space, it is a chat room, one-on-one chats and video calls. We have rooms for virtual nongkrong, we call it, or virtual hangout there. And rooms for different working groups could also be open or accessed, where people can learn from the different working groups conversation as well. It's sounds.lumbung.space, and this is an audio archive where music, recording, and podcasts can be shared and organized. This is film.lumbung.space, which is a repository where those films contributions by the Lumbung community, people in the interlocal, who is part of the ecosystem of the Lumbung community, also can be shared, can be curated and screened in our, again, different localities as an exchange after the closing of Documenta 15. And to share with you the most, like for example, the most recent screening event that is happening is in Quezon City, Metro Manila, I think today and also yesterday, where one of the Lumbung artists, her name is Kiri Dalena, is currently living, so it's happening. And finally, lumbung.space is also an ongoing research project. I myself still is learning a lot from this process, and it's such a privilege to be able to have collaborators in the working group to share the research question with, to use lumbung.space as a moment of collective learning. And in this learning, we try to find out how to translate the values of the Lumbung to the digital. We also try to find out what kind of digital tools and practices are valuable to a global network of collective like ours. And concretely, the question is what an artist-run digital space could be like, or what a digital platform for a Lumbung practice could possibly look like, as I shared earlier. And this means that lumbung.space is really a work in progress. So our question on how to build a digital space for the Lumbung interlocal, which could be both a resource and a platform for these collective practices, also had implication for how one go about it. Like the collaborators and materials used also had to be Lumbung in spirit. And the first idea is Lumbung all the way down. The Lumbung values of local anchor, generosity, independence, sufficiency, regeneration, transparency, and humor can and are expressed not only in how lumbung.space is made, but also in what it is made of. Like the principle of Lumbung all the way down means that lumbung.space is built using tools, practices, and partner, which also share these values of Lumbung. And the wish to have a self-governed, independent, non-exploitative digital environment were shared with other groups and initiatives working to make online environment and tools. We can benefit from this prior work by working together with this group and tools. However, others can also benefit from the work we do on lumbung.space as part of Lumbung all the way down. Lumbung.space is based mostly on already existing tools and chooses to use and improve those rather than reinvent from zero. And the tools picked are chosen not only for their functionality, but also because they have good technical and user documentation, healthy communities of users and developers, apps for different platforms, and support for different languages. And to give a concrete example of tv.lumbung.space, the video archive and live streaming tools, it is based on an already existing software called PeerTube. And PeerTube is developed and maintained as a free libre and open source tool by a French nonprofit association called Framasoft, who invests in this kind of tools. And being a free libre and open source tools means anyone can see how the software is made, for example, use it for their ends, and contribute also to it with ideas, bug reports, or by adding new functionality. As we know, the open source tools are digital commons that many can benefit from. So PeerTube is made with the goal of having independent communities be able to have the functionality of platform like YouTube, but at the same time being able to set their very own rules as well for content and have this functionality in a way which maintain the privacy of the users and viewers. Working Lumbung all the way down means we are not buying a service from a company, but rather we become part of an ecosystem of practices and tools that try to make better and fairer digital environments. But however, this ecosystem also needs to be cared for and also contributed to. And we do that by working directly with makers of the tools and by improving the projects and giving also our improvement backs. And this kind of activation serves multiple purposes. And the first is to understand how alternative platforms can be used as a design material to be able to facilitate particular social processes or become part of a larger whole even. And the second is to understand how they interact with the needs of user, whether individuals, group, or institution. And finally, the goal of this activation is to build knowledge and capacity that can benefit the people working to implement alternative platform in their particular scenarios, but also the underlying software projects and larger ecosystem this project are part of. To give another example, to help make and maintain lumbung.space, we also started by working together with Autonomic Worker Cooperative, who are an employee-run company which work to develop and maintain digital infrastructure for nonprofit, labor organization, and now us. The work done on lumbung.space not only improves the different tools we rely on, but also contributes to the Co-op Cloud. And the Co-op Cloud is an initiative by Autonomic to create a set of blueprints for groups that want to use similar services. And these photos, if you can see in the screen, were taken during our Lumbung sharing session. Autonomics were there. It was in Kassel last July. And it meant to be a space where the working group can share their processes in lumbung.space or their work to others and discuss the others' need and desire as well to meet in real life, while in the same time to have more friends joining the working group, the lumbung.space working group, to help with the further development and governance. At the current moment, the lumbung.space working group is in the need to rest for a while, but we will soon have our routine meeting back and are thinking to shortly be forming more working groups that could split and think about different aspects. Like these working groups are those, for example, who think about what is to be made private or being shared internally, what is to be made public, to facilitate the creation of an open agreement on models of resource distribution, who to involve from the ecosystem, what is our fundraising direction, like the question on how to sustain a platform like this to us is $1 million question. So yeah, to be able to regroup and to decide what is actually our fundraising direction and whether there are extra wishes from another working group or the Lumbung community, the interlocal, on how this platform should be developed further, for example, or how can the collective fund in our collective pot be used as seed money to enable the further process of sustainability of this platform to occur. In short, or in principle, the journey will continue. And for now, we are feeling so very happy that we can share the process with all of you. I think that's all for now that I can share about lumbung.space. And thank you very much for listening.